I host an event to create the environment to connect you back to yourself, because majority of what you have spent all of your life doing is ignoring yourself, abandoning yourself, and disconnecting from yourself. That's the society we live in. And when you can connect back to yourself, it is the most powerful thing you have in your business, in your life, period. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you are having a fabulous week. I am feeling so grateful today for a super full last few weeks. Super full. 2 out of 3 of my kids have birthdays, and they were just really special this year. They both had their first sleepover parties because we homeschool the kids. I wanted to do something more intimate and kind of smaller group just because we don't have a big group of friends for them to invite. So it was really special. I call myself the chief magic maker in our family because I am the one who plans a lot of these things. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy creating those memories for them. So feeling really grateful. I am about to head to Mexico for a Joe Dispenza retreat. If you know who he is, you know that's a really big deal. It's been on my kind of bucket list for the last 2 years to attend one of his retreats. So my husband and I are going. And I'm ready after that to be home for a bit. It has been a wild April. So today on the podcast, I want to talk about Costa Rica. I want to talk about my retreat. I want to talk about it in a way that inspires you to follow these things in your business that retreats are for me. So I want to share behind the scenes of Costa Rica, but not in just a let me tell you about Costa Rica. I want to present it in a way that has a lot of lessons for you in it. And also in the experience that is my retreats in Costa Rica, I am not exaggerating even in the least when I say it massively transformed each of the women's lives that were there. And I know that's an easy thing to say, but truly, like, they are not the same people that they were when they showed up in the retreat. And to me, that impact is priceless because they will go home and who they became during that week will impact their family, their friends, their team, their audience, their content that they create, everything. And that was my experience in doing retreats when I attended my first retreats, which was only a few years ago. So I'm going to get into the story a little bit because I want you to take this story and be paying attention in how this could relate to your own business and following those nudges and then using those to expand into different areas. So, all right, let me back up. I hosted my first event almost a year ago to the date. And I had this thought the other day that I want to share. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have been like, there's no way that I want to host retreats. That sounds like so much work. Actually, I did say this. I had a friend who was like, let's host an event together and, we could do a really fun marketing event. And I almost did it with that friend, but I was like, it sounds like so much work. I have no idea what I'm doing. Nah, not for me. And then I went on a couple of retreats myself. So if you followed me for a while, you know that I went to a retreat called the Wild Woman Retreat in Costa Rica. It completely changed my life. It introduced me to the concepts around the masculine and the feminine. And I came back a different person, completely different person. That retreat is like one of those pivotal moments. Like, when you have those moments in your life and you can trace it back to then and you're like, well, after that, I'll never be the same. That was my experience. Even leaving that retreat and going to another retreat about a year later, I still didn't have the thought of I'm going to host my own retreats. Like that was something I wanted to do until I had invested in last year a mastermind. And in that mastermind was a retreat included. And at that retreat, I had a conversation around I'm changing my company name. Because of all the changes and things that I've gone through and who we are, we're becoming Embodied Marketing. And I wanted to do something different, big, innovative for that name change. And so the idea was thrown out at that mastermind to host an event. If you remember, that became the Ultimate Entrepreneur Experience event where I hosted the amazing race downtown Austin and had people in cold plunges, dancing on the side of the river, working out. It was so cool. After that, we did a like cocktail, more formal party with a DJ. I did a speech. We announced the name change. It was epic. And it was that event. The day after the event, I hosted for free for any clients a VIP day where I did hot seats for them. And I had a facilitator come in and do breath work. It was that event that afterwards I was like, oh, I need to do events. Just that event alone was so impacting and life-changing, not just for me. It was for me, but for the attendees, that I saw the power of the in-person connection. And not only the power of it, because I knew the power of it, because I did personally experienced it, but I saw that I could facilitate it in a way that allowed me to leverage my gifts and my expertise. And I wasn't stressed about it. I mean, I freaking hosted the Amazing Race. Like, that was the hardest event to host. I tried to get an event planner, and they literally told me, because it was like 6 weeks before. From the idea to the event happening, it was 6 weeks. And the reason the timeline was so crunched is because it was about to get really hot in Austin. And so I had to do the Amazing Race before it got too hot. And then it was like Memorial Day. And so there was a reason. And that's insane. I tried to get an event planner and they were like, no, like, you're going to need permits. We can't do this. And I was like, all right, I'll do it myself. I like hired someone locally here who I just had as like an assistant. I'll do it myself. Screw permits. We don't need permits. We'll ask for forgiveness. And we pulled it off. After doing that event, I was like, oh, anything else seems like a piece of cake compared to that. So it was that event that made me realize I want to do it more. From there, I scheduled that we were going to do Embodied Marketing Live in January. That's become now a twice-a-year event, and then I have my retreats. Moral of the story is this. First of all, I didn't plan this. I didn't say, here's my 5-year plan. I'm going to host events and I'm going to host retreats, and they're going to be life-changing. It's going to be one of my favorite things. I followed what was right as the next step, and then I learned from that, and I took from the experience of that and built upon it. Also, this is a thought that I had earlier this week that I think is really powerful. If I had not been in that mastermind, and I invested a high ticket in that mastermind, multiple 5 figures. If I had not been in that mastermind, I never would have hosted the May event, because the idea came from the retreat in that mastermind, collaborating with the group. I didn't even come up fully with that idea. I ran with the idea. I executed the idea, but it was a collaborative, like, hot seat brainstorming idea. That mastermind was great, but I didn't get a ton out of the experience. I was actually like the farthest along in the business, in some ways farther than the facilitator of the mastermind, who I love. Like, I'm not saying this is a negative thing, but when I look back, I realized the reason I was in that mastermind was literally just for that. And that one decision, that one idea has been like a domino for me to host the May event, host my Embodied Marketing Live event, host retreats, learn how to do it through the facilitator of the mastermind who had a background in retreats. I learned a lot through attending her retreats. And I also didn't join the mastermind thinking I want to learn events and retreats. When I joined her mastermind, I was like, nah, I don't want to do retreats. Sounds like way too much work. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't think I could do it. I was nervous to speak in front of people until a few years ago. And like through the personal work have really gained such a confidence and grounded energy. So that's one point I want to make, is that's like such the power of making these decisions and investing in your growth and following what you feel is right. And it's almost like, I don't really know why this is the right decision, but I know it is the right decision. And so therefore, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all in and I'm going to see what happens. And that was my experience investing in this mastermind. After hosting my first event in May, I was so clear that something bigger than me was happening. And whether you can resonate with that statement or not, I know that there's probably a time in my life that I would have rolled my eyes at that. But truly, if you go back and listen to my podcast, probably mid-May last year, I did a podcast recapping this experience and telling some crazy stories about how I would actually pray and be like, what am I doing? This is crazy. This is a huge investment, this event. I have no idea if it's going to pay off. I'm trying to pull off something insane in 6 weeks. Like, give me a sign. And then God, the universe, would show me something. Sponsored. Like, I got the event sponsored by the local bank here. And I just knew, I knew so deep in me that it was a calling. And it was like, this is what you are here to do, is create these experiences and have this extremely lasting impact on these entrepreneurs. And that is my event still today. Every event that I have, whether it's Embodied Marketing Live or a retreat, I can't even fully articulate this in words, but something takes over and just guides me. I don't plan the agendas in a crazy detailed form. I change them the morning of most of the time. Sometimes I am mid-workshop and a question comes that I should ask next and I say it and it like leads to this massive transformation. And that happened at this retreat and I was like, oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. I have goosebumps. Like it is so crazy. I've never experienced something to this level like I have at my events. Chills. At this last retreat, I'll tell you guys a quick story about an exercise I had them do, and I think this is such a powerful example. So I loosely planned the retreat. In Costa Rica, I had planned the facilitators that I wanted to bring in. I loosely planned the days and the workshops. I had like a bank of workshops that I could pull from how it felt, but I very much I feel the energy. I feel the girls. I feel like the conversations that we have. And when they start the retreat, they set an intention. So as we're there, I am accommodating and shifting the retreat to make sure it's meeting everybody where they're at. And I don't know how, there's not a formula for it. It is me just flowing, which I never could have done that 2-3 years ago. It was way too structured. But anyways, one of the days I knew they were getting massages. So each had a massage. So it was a big chunk of time. It was 5 hours where we had all these individual massages and they had to rotate. And so I knew I had to figure out something for them to do that we didn't have to all do at the same time as a group. And I had this idea dropped in as they all do of this is what you should do. And it was to have them paint. So I wanted them to they got a canvas and they got paint. And I knew that most of the women, one of them already did paint, but all the others were what? You want us to paint? And I knew that was going to be the response because I very much relate to that in being somebody who says, I'm not good at art. I can't use that part of my brain. Tell me to write something and I'll write it. And, at this point in the retreat, they had done a ton of journaling, a ton of writing. And I said, I want you to express yourself on this canvas with no words. And it was such a powerful and a cool exercise. At first, we're what? They, how I would have responded, WTF, you want me to paint a canvas? No. And the thoughts that come up of I'm going to be bad at it. And, I don't want to do that. And this is dumb. And so I wanted them to make on the canvas whatever came out to express the season of life they were in. That's the only instructions I gave them. And then I told them, as you are doing it, I want you to notice, as if you're watching yourself do it, I want you to observe the thoughts that come up, the feelings that come up, where it is in your body. Just observe it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to judge it. Just observe it. And then after you're done with your painting, you're going to journal about it. And throughout this, as they were getting ready to paint, I just came out of me. I said to them, if 5-year-old you was handed a canvas and paints, what would they do? Would they sit there and go, oh my gosh, what if it's not good? I'm worried about this. Or would they just paint? That dropped in the correlation to their 5-year-old self. So then we had a workshop later on and I asked the question, and literally this question came to me because of that other workshop and the question I thought of. I asked this question of, what did your 5-year-old need that she wasn't getting, want, and what did she want to say? And it was the most powerful workshop I have ever facilitated because of that question. It brought them all back to their child. It was so powerful, emotional, healing, and I didn't plan any of it. And one of the girls was like, well, why 5? Why'd you choose 5? Is there a science to this? And I'm like, I don't know. I chose 5 because when we were doing the painting project, I said, what would your 5-year-old do? Because that came to me in that moment. And that was such a transformational workshop. And then from there, we went into a meditation where I actually had them envision their 5-year-old self, see her, feel her, ask her if she wanted a hug. I've done something like that before with my own mentors, but I didn't plan any of that. And it was probably one of the most life-changing workshops for all of them at the retreat. And so that's the example of when I run my retreats and my events, something else is moving through me. And if you can find that in your work, it is the most powerful, I don't even want to say experience, it is the most powerful force that exists. And I feel this when I teach webinars, when I'm on the podcast, when I'm hosting retreats, or when I'm coaching. When I have a one-on-one and I'm doing a hot seat with someone, I can't explain it, but I know what to ask them. I know what to say. I'll get someone that's like, this is what's coming to me. I need to ask you this question. And it's like, boom, that was the thing. I have yet to experience this in my life until this has happened. And so I say this because I want you to understand, first of all, my retreats and my events are going to sell out the day I announce them in the near future, because they are unlike anything else out there, because they are not just about me. I also had this really powerful moment during the retreat where one of the things that we did was a static dance. So I hired a DJ and we had this upstairs huge deck in the jungle, and it was so cool. Of course, she was a little bit late. And then when we started, a thunderstorm rolled in, pouring rain, thundering behind us, like in the jungle, the most magical backdrop. And we did 2 hours of a static dance. And she took us through a whole experience, and you don't talk during a static dance. Like, you are in your body. It's amazing. And at the end, she had kind of a more calmer song going to bring us down. And I participated in the dance with the girls, and I got the clearest message, like as they were all dancing and I was in the middle, something was like, sit down. It's not about you. Sit down, be in the middle of the energy and hold the space for it. Like, that is your retreats. That is your events. That is your work. It is not about me. Of course it's not. I think we sometimes forget that, but it's like, you are a mechanism. You are so powerful and can tap into this wisdom that I believe comes from past lives, something much bigger than us. And it's like a remembering. It's like when you can connect to that, you're no longer just you in this life. It's just something so much bigger. And I'm sorry if you're like, WTF are you talking about, Emily? Oh, it's one of those things that if you know, you know. And if you've never experienced it, you probably think I'm a psycho. So there's some background on the retreat. Now let me get into some of my notes that I had here. So one of my biggest intentions for all of my events and my retreats is, first of all, to get entrepreneurs out of their minds and get them out of the day-to-day, the monotony, the grind, the constantly repeating thoughts and beliefs that they don't even realize are their programming, and to connect them back to themselves, to their body, to their wisdom, to what they already know. And that's one of the biggest things that I think differentiates me from a lot of facilitators. Not all of them. There's some great facilitators that also believe in this, but I am not hosting an event for me to tell you what to do. I host an event to create the experience, to create the space, to create the environment, to connect you back to yourself. Because majority of what you have spent all of your life doing is ignoring yourself, abandoning yourself, and disconnecting from yourself. That's the society we live in. And when you can connect back to yourself, it is the most powerful thing you have in your business, in your life, period. And I learned that firsthand before I taught it. And once I knew it, I know it's the most powerful thing. So my entire experience is around creating through workshops, somatic workshops, through the workshops I facilitate in terms of the questions I ask. And there's lots of journaling, lots of questions and things. It's to bring them back to themselves. It's to get them out of the day-to-day. It's to disconnect them from things like email, Slack, Voxer, social media. I sit the girls down, and I do this at Embodied Marketing Live too, is as much as you can. If you can disconnect and be fully present during my retreats, during my events, you'll get more out of it. Because most of the time, you may not realize it, most of the time you spend distracted. You spend with noise. And just separating yourself from that alone will change your life. So I set up the entire experience with the intention of creating the environment to connect people back to themselves so that they can use that wisdom to make decisions when it comes to business strategy, offers, team decisions, business development, you name it, anything related to their business, but also related to their entire personal life. It all stems from that. It stems from you having clarity on those decisions and on those ideas and on being able to execute those things, which only comes from being able to connect back to that place. A lot of people come to my retreats and come to my events for the first time because they think they want marketing strategy and business strategy, and we do that. Oh, we for sure do that. But they walk away understanding that the most impactful pieces was the somatic work, was all of the work that they did on themselves. And I'm just going to say this because I'm just going to brag about this. 75% of the women that were at this retreat have already been to one of my retreats and paid the high ticket costs for one of those retreats or my events. And they're like, you name the date, you name the place, and we're in for the next one, and we better have first dibs. And that just speaks to the transformation. It was funny, the one person who was there, or two people who were there who hadn't been to my retreats. Actually, no, they all had. So only one had not been to any of my events or retreats. And she was like, I did not think it would be this. I mean, it was more than she could have expected, but she's like, I thought you were going to, get up and speak about like different lead magnets and do workshops on, marketing strategy. And here's the thing. That's not really helpful. Like, you can find that on my podcast. You can find that on a webinar. The business strategy we do is laser focused into you. It's like boom, 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 boom. This is what you need. This is what you're doing. This is where you're at. Let's do this. Let's do this. Decision made. You don't need information. You need custom to you where you're at. And so a lot of our strategy in the retreats happens in the car while you're driving, happens at the beach, hanging out at dinner, because it's so laser focused to you. And then the impactful workshops are all like taking you out of your day-to-day, out of the noise, connecting you back to yourself, and giving you immense clarity where you didn't have it before. I thought it would be fun to give you a little bit of a high level of the experience just so you can know. And it's cool. It's like these experiences are a culmination of a lot of things that I've experienced, and that's how I've built the retreat. So first of all, I learned this from a mentor because I would never have done it this way. But I don't provide the agenda. And I do that on purpose. So throughout the week, the girls don't know what we're doing. And it's not like when they get there, I tell them what we're doing. It's like the night before, I say, meet here at this time and wear this. So they don't know what we're doing, and I do it on purpose because I learned this from my mentor who hosted retreats. And I think Joe Dispenza actually does this, and I think that's where she learned it. But people who are always in their minds, like me, managing schedules, needing to know the itinerary to stay in that control of what to expect and planning it, and just like overly in that masculine energy. If you put them into an environment where they don't know what's coming, and they don't have to plan, and they don't have to think about it, and they don't get to control everything, it's extremely powerful. And especially for women, which my high level retreats like this are women only right now. For women, this puts you into a receiving place, which is the feminine energy. And so instead of being the one who's planning everything or staying on top of it all and controlling it and having it all perfected, you shift to this state of like, well, I'm just going to flow. I'm going to flow with what Emily tells us what we're doing. I trust Emily. No, even if I am nervous or uncomfortable about what we're doing next, oh well, because I'm here. And it's really, really powerful because it allows them to experience fully receiving and letting go of the reins and loosening that grip, which is so, so powerful for women who maybe spend no time in that place. So that's the first thing, is I don't have an agenda. It also gives me the freedom to make shifts and changes that they don't even know I'm making. And I'm making those changes based on how the retreat's going, what I'm feeling like the group needs. Like the last day, we were supposed to do a more intense breathwork session, but the day before we did Sacred Rage. And so I was like, it's done. We've done the intensity. We need to switch, and we're just going to do more lighter sound bowls to ground and finish up the retreat. I changed it the night before. They had no idea. But if I were to tell them, we're doing breath work this day, we're doing this day, then it just creates a totally different dynamic. So that's the first thing, is nobody knows the agenda. Same with Embodied Marketing Life. I don't put an agenda on the page, and I do it on purpose because it's part of the magic. And I also want you to show up and just receive. I want you to be present. I think that's such a big piece to it. Being fully present for the experience, not thinking about what we're doing next, not thinking about your judgment of what we're doing next, not thinking about, do I have everything? Am I going to be good at this or whatever? Just being there. we would leave the house and they wouldn't know where we were going. That might be like nerve-wracking to you, but I promise you none of them complained about it. They all loved it. And then the actual experience is a mixture of adventure. So we go out on adventures, hikes, waterfalls. We slid down a waterfall. Luxury, it's all inclusive. Business strategy workshops, and then the personal growth, and of course, connection. That was my inspiration for it. I forgot I had the inspiration when I took a month off last year, and I was like, I love to travel. Why don't I just go to cool places and host a retreat and create an experience? And that was my Alaska retreat, was the first one last year. And then I bring in guest facilitators, especially on the somatic work. So things like breath work. In Costa Rica, we had someone come teach yoga. We had ecstatic dance. We had massages. We had sound bowls. So I bring in experts who can support in obviously the things that I can't teach. And then I teach workshops all throughout that support what we're doing with the other facilitators. And it's a mix of hot seats, a lot of like me asking a question, them journaling, sharing with the group, getting feedback from me, and coaching. So that's an overview of the experience. And I noted some biggest takeaways from this specific last retreat that I thought might be helpful for you. One of the biggest themes for the girls was trusting their intuition. So at the beginning of the retreat, I asked them, what's your intention? And set 2 intentions. 1, what is your intention when it comes to the masculine? So what do you want to walk away with for your business, the strategy, the like tactical? And 2, how do you want to feel, which is the feminine energy? How do you want to feel when you get on that plane and you're leaving here? And all of them almost said, I want to connect deeper to my intuition so that I can use that connection in my day-to-day, in my business, and in my life. And so throughout the retreat, they continued to realize that they already had the answers. And the way that you connect back to your intuition is first, you have to listen to it. You have to quiet the noise. Every morning we were doing meditation. We were doing specific things that allowed them to really tune back into that connection that they had forgotten what it even feels like. I can't just say to you, hey, listen to your intuition. If you're like, I don't know what my intuition's saying. I don't know what it feels like to listen to my intuition. The first thing you have to do is go through the experience of listening. So we did that through meditations, through just that slowing down, that regulating of the nervous system so they could learn and get clarity on what it was even saying. And throughout the retreat, they continued to realize, I already had the answers. I already know the answer to this. I just wasn't listening. I didn't have the clarity. I didn't have the ability to tune out the other noise to connect to what that answer was. So a big one was trusting their intuition, and that being such an important thing for all of them to leave with. And they all left with that clarity and that skill sharpened. Because as I said earlier, like we are programmed to think the answer is outside of ourselves when it's always within. You might need a mentor to help you get perspective. It helps to have people who have been there before, help you make shortcuts in making decisions. Absolutely. Is coaching and mentorship a very valuable thing? 100%. But you know the final call. You know the answer. If you really had to think about it, you are just often taught to not trust yourself. The other big takeaway, which is never surprising to me, but is always fun to witness because every single event this has been the case. Not one time has it not. And that is the somatic work and the work on your deeply rooted and programmed beliefs is by far 100 times, no question, the biggest impact. Because what you don't realize until you go through this experience is, first of all, you hit a point in your life and your business when you realize you can't think your way out of every problem. And you become exhausted trying to overpower everything with your mind. And our bodies are so wise. Every single event and retreat I've hosted, the most impactful part was coming back to your beliefs and seeing how they dictate everything. So one of the girls there realized that through that 5-year-old exercise, she realized that when she was 5, she felt left out. Her brother would always be like, you can't play with me, you suck, you're always left out. So she would even go as far when she was 5 years old to pretend to be a boy to see if her brother would include her. She realized through this exercise and the somatic work we did that week that she was already excluding herself or putting a wall up when it came to connecting with others, when it came to even showing up online and creating content. Because if she did that, then they couldn't exclude her and hurt her. And she already took care of it. So she would already be like, oh, I won't put myself out there in that way. And this is subconscious. Like, she didn't realize she was doing this until this workshop. She realized, I'm not really putting myself out there. I'm not really showing up and creating content like I used to, because something had happened the previous year where she felt attacked because she built a platform and people can be crazy. And so she stopped creating at the level that she used to, but she told herself she didn't want to. And then she realized, oh, I do want to. I really miss showing up that way, but I'm not anymore, because I put up a protection. Because if I exclude myself first, if I hide first, if I don't put myself out there first, then I can't be excluded, then I can't be hurt, then I won't feel the pain that my 5-year-old felt. So those beliefs that we have from back when we were 3, 4, 5 years old are running the show. And people think it's separate. People think the personal work and finding those beliefs and addressing those beliefs doesn't relate to my business. It has everything to do with your business. Like, every way you make decisions to show up, you make decisions to grow your business, to grow your team, to invest in your business, how you show up every day is driven by those beliefs. And so for me, like, the most rewarding part of this is to rewire them and identify them, because awareness is the first step. As soon as she was aware of it, she was like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm going to choose different instead of subconsciously choosing this. And you bet it's going to make a massive difference on her business because of that one belief, that one decision. So that work, not only does it change your life, it is how you grow your business. And for the longest time, I didn't believe it until not only I experienced it, but I saw this over and over and over again being that impactful. Another core theme for the girls that kept coming up was simplifying. And even I realized a few times through conversations like where I could do this, because I think that, again, when you are in the noise and you are in the thick of it, and you're in the day-to-day grind and the tactical, and you're not really looking from up here, we forget how to just keep things simple. We overcomplicate things, we overcommit, we try to do too much, we say yes to too much, we're like, why are we even doing this? And so for all of them, there was a lot of once stepping away and having that perspective this week of ways that they could simplify, that they could make things easier for themselves. Not that they were not put as much energy and effort into their business. I think people really confuse ease with lazy. Ease is like a river flowing, and then force is like you've got a huge dam and you're trying to force everything through that. There's two ways to operate a business. You could follow the ease and really tune into what feels easy in your body, what feels like a weight lifted off of you, what feels effortless, but still put energy, still work, still show up. Or you can white knuckle it and you can force everything and do things really hard for no reason. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are doing that, myself included, until a few years ago. And so when you take a step back and you really learn how to tune into the decisions that equal ease, you can simplify your business, and that's the only way to scale it. And it's hard to see when you're in it, but more does not always equal more. A lot of times the best entrepreneurs and the best and most successful businesses are the ones that are saying no to a lot of things, including their own ideas, and going all in and simplifying and following that ease, that flow. Because of course something that flows is going to go farther and be more successful than something that's being white knuckled, is blocked up with a dam and you have to shove your way through it. Like, that's so much more energy for the same thing than following the ease. And then a final takeaway or theme that we did a lot, which is really powerful, is thinking about the future, whether that's a goal that they had. I had them do a lot of exercises around this. One of them being, what are all the things that were not working before you came here? What do you want it to look like in your business and your life? What do you really want that you're afraid to say? And just seeing what comes up. Looking ahead to the future, whether it be 6 months, 12 months, a year, this is something that I have done forever. Like, I naturally do this of what's the dream? how do I bring it to reality? What's the tactical steps? And so we did that a lot throughout the retreat of thinking about changes they want to make, whether it's habits, goals, things they want to stop doing, start doing, how they want to feel. Your feelings dictate everything. How you want to feel when that's already a reality, how you will feel, and then breaking it down into the tactical to-dos. So by the end of the retreat, they had a list of like, I'm going home and this is what I'm implementing. And that's another, goal for me in these retreats is to blend the feminine energy of dreaming, not a lot of structure, flow with the masculine, which is very important and is here's my to-do list. Here's my list of things I'm going to go to get it done. Here's the structure. Here's the habits I'm going to implement. You need both of these things. A lot of us are just out of balance. So thinking of that future and allowing yourself to really step out of the box and pretend like there's no rules and like, what would that look like? Because I think we spend a lot of time telling ourselves like, this is how it has to be. I have to live launch this much. I have to have this product. I have to grow my business this way. This is the only way. And then when you get out of the day-to-day and you look at it, you're like, but wait, why? Why did I make that rule? Why did I put that on myself? And that was definitely an experience for a lot of them, is in the process of stepping out of the constant grind and noise is like, wait, why am I doing it that way? Or I don't have to do it that way. Or do I really want that? How can I simplify it? And then creating the actual to-do list of how they're going to bring that to life. Those are my notes on the Costa Rica retreat. If you are like, get me to another retreat, you can go to embodiedmarketing.com/retreat. It will be a wait list. It'll have the Costa Rica information on it, but it will be a wait list. I am playing with the idea of hosting one in the mountains in the fall. Otherwise, I will most likely be doing Costa Rica again in a year. And the max amount of women I will take on these retreats is 8. And as time goes, like I said, 75% of the women here were in Alaska with me and at my retreats. And they're like, you better give us access first, because that's how crazy incredible these retreats are. So if you want to be on the wait list, definitely go get on the wait list. I also have Embodied Marketing Live happening in July. So if you go to embodiedmarketing.com/live, that's a little bit different. It's 3 days if you get the VIP ticket, and it's 9 to 5. So it's not overnight and it's not all inclusive. It's a little bit more business workshops than the retreats, but it's a perfect first step, and it is a fraction of the cost, obviously, because it's not all inclusive. But July 17 to 19 is Embodied Marketing Live. And the last Embodied Marketing Live I hosted in January, half the people bought tickets to the next one the next day because I was like, this was going to be a once a year event. Now it's going to be a twice a year because it was so freaking good. And then half the people bought tickets. Like, I'm not making this up when I say it is the most life-changing experiences. And I just also love meeting you guys in person. I didn't just record this podcast, though, to promote my events and retreats. It happens as a byproduct, as I teach with marketing. Sales are a byproduct of serving. I want this to be an inspiration for you to, number one, a lot of the takeaways I talked about in here, you can start to think about. Connecting back to yourself. Make time for stillness. Focus on those beliefs. Bring awareness to them. Prioritize the personal work and realize how big of an impact that has on your business. Pull yourself out of the day-to-day. Limit the noise. Simplify. Those are all takeaways that you can implement right now without a retreat. A retreat will just be like 100 times the impact. And then also retreats and events for me as an entrepreneur and a CEO, using that, I hope, as inspiration for yourself to identify what are the things that put you in flow. What are the things that are your gifts being leveraged to the max? And you might not know what they are yet. I didn't know that this was my path. Like I said, even 2 years ago, I would have been like, absolutely not am I going to be hosting retreats and events, until I went through the experience and found it. So when you can find that thing or things, or maybe you have found it, that is your purpose, and that experience of it's something bigger than you, it's life-changing. It is, I believe, the most rewarding feeling to be fully aligned and in your purpose. And I don't know where this will take me, right? I might do more retreats, I might do less retreats, I might do bigger, I might do smaller. I don't know yet. I follow the experience, and whatever comes from that is what I create. And so let that be an inspiration for you, because I believe money and success is a byproduct of that. And just like, if I look at someone, I'm going to see Joe Dispenza next week. His events are an inspiration to me. I think there's almost 600 people that buy tickets. I'll report back, but 600 people that buy tickets to this week-long retreat. They sell out in a day. Each ticket's $2,500. A ton of money, obviously, right? The impact, everybody I talk to who's been to a Joe Dispenza week is like absolutely life-changing. That's why they sell out in a day. So let this be an example. It's an example for me of, I know that if I continue to change lives and have that level of impact and follow the bigger thing happening, which is my events and is my retreats, and just trust in the unknown of that. Trust in, I don't know if I'm doing a fall retreat in the mountains. When I get clear on that, on where that would be and how I want to do it, I'm not clear yet. And that's why there's not a date picked. I know when it happens, when it gets clear, it drops in as this is exactly what you should do. And here's the clarity. And it's like someone tells me of a place or I get inspiration. I can't explain it. I follow that because it's something bigger than me. And you find that thing through the personal work, through the bigger things are always happening around us. That's what I believe. We just either are aware of it or we're not aware of it, connected to it or not connected to it. The more you tune into that, which is also your intuition, the more you'll get the clarity, the more you'll be able to follow that. It's so powerful, so rewarding. I'm so grateful, so grateful. Before every event, every retreat, and most mornings before I host an event or a retreat, I say a prayer and I ask God to give me the words, give me the wisdom, use me, and take over. And then I trust. And it's never steered me wrong. It has changed many lives, and I think it's just the beginning. I use people like Joe Dispenza and these events that are, number one, so impactful, but number two, so successful as inspiration. And I don't know if I'll ever have an event that big. I honestly don't know. Right now, my answer would be no, but I'm open to whatever. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast, especially on this episode. If you have any takeaways, I would love to hear them. On Instagram would be a great place to DM me. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys next time.